So let's get into this JJ Redick. I'm not gonna open the phone lines up for that Paul Pierce thing. I just thought that was something that y'all wanted to hear that was kind of funny. I just threw out there. But let's get to this JJ Redick thing. So JJ Redick is seriously being discussed as one of the finalists or one of the candidates for the Lakers job. I think his name is being tossed around for the Charlotte Hornets job as well. I don't know how, but yeah, here we are, right? So, and we talked about this before. I think James Borrego, who used to be the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets, who did very well with Charlotte. Now he's in New Orleans as an assistant. I think his name has emerged. I think Sam Cassell's name has emerged as well. But one of these things are not like the other. Like we got James Borrego with head coaching experience, assistant coaching experience. We got Sam Cassell, who's been an assistant for a long time, and a player in this league that played at a high level as a player on high level teams. Won 2 championships with Hakeem Olajuwon as a rookie and second year player as a starting point guard, or sometimes coming off the bench behind Kenny Smith. But he played starter minutes. Great player. Went on to win another one as a veteran coming off the bench, backing up Rondo with the Boston Celtics. So he left out of this league playing beside some of the greatest players on some of the greatest teams and winning at a high level. He left with 3 rings, right? And then he was a heck of a player as well. Deep playoff runs with Minnesota when he played with Garnett and all of the things. He played with Ray Allen and Big Dog Glenn Robinson in Milwaukee. So this dude has been around George Karl, around Rudy Tomjanovich, around what's my man that coached Minnesota? Flip Saunders might have been a coach when he was there in Minnesota, around Doc Rivers in Boston. So he's been around some coaches as a player, played at a high level, played with great players, deep playoff run, championships, and then he's also been there as an assistant, sitting on the bench with some great coaches as well. So he's a great candidate, just as James Borrego is. And then you get to JJ Redick. Here's a guy who has no coaching experience as an assistant, as a head coach, as a trainer, no front office experience, nothing. He just went to talk on a podcast, and the way he talked was so impressive to someone that someone thought that he deserves a head coaching job. Forget assistant, go right into a head coaching job. I think that's hilarious. But here's a clip of them talking about it.
Games. Look at it.
After firing Darvin Ham, what names are you hearing that are sort of circling this position out west?
Gary, the Lakers are going to start ramping up that search here in Chicago at the draft combine this week. They'll start calling teams for coaches who are under contract, assistant coaches, asking for permission. And then perhaps some coaches who aren't under contract with teams. A couple of names to watch in this search. James Borrego, the top assistant in New Orleans. They went from offense at 21-22 in the league last year to a top 10 offense. Really found peak performance for Zion Williamson, handling the ball, kind of playing that point forward position. And Borrego had a good run as head coach in Charlotte, went from 33 to 43 wins there. Obviously was with Greg Popovich for a long time in San Antonio. He'll be a candidate in this process. Another candidate is someone who hasn't coached, and that's our colleague here at ESPN, JJ Redick. He is certainly somebody that the Lakers are drilling down on. They're making calls and they're trying to get a sense of what a head coach JJ Redick would look like. But this is going to be a long search. They're going to talk to a lot of candidates. And so I don't expect this process to go quickly. One more.
So that's Woj talking about what he's hearing. They're saying they go wrap up this coaching search pretty soon. And those were a couple of the names that was out there, Borrego and JJ Redick. I'm quite sure JJ Redick is going to get that job. I don't think LeBron would sign off on James Borrego. Let me tell you something about Borrego when he was in Charlotte. They drafted LaMelo Ball. What number did he go? Number 2, maybe number 3. Who was in that draft with LaMelo? Was it Wiseman and Edwards and LaMelo? And I think Edwards went 1 to Minnesota. I think James went number 2 to the Warriors. And then, and Melo went number 3. So Charlotte gets the number 3 pick, drafts Melo. And Borrego's the coach. And Borrego is not even starting him. He's not starting him. And he's benching him in the fourth quarter. I think they might have had Ish Smith that was playing the fourth quarters. And when they was asking him, why are you benching your star number 1, your first round pick like this? And he said the turnovers and defense. And it's the same thing that Mike Malone did with Michael Porter Jr. when he first got in Denver. And the same thing he did with Bobo. He wouldn't play neither one of them dudes. And it was like a back and forth between Michael Porter Jr. and Mike Malone. I want to say their first playoff run, maybe in the bubble, when they was having some issues. And Mike Malone was like, "No, I'm not playing him. He didn't crash the boards on he didn't crash the boards. He wasn't rebounding." So they coach hard. Mike Malone and Borrego, they come from the same type of coaching tree. I think Borrego coached under Popovich. So he's a tough coach, no nonsense type of coach, and they love defense. So imagine that type of dude coming. This is the same type of dude that David Blatt was in Cleveland. And that's what LeBron did not like about David Blatt. Mind you, David Blatt got there in his first year. They went to the finals and they lost to the Warriors, and they didn't have Kevin Love or Kyrie Irving. They only had Kyrie Irving for one game in the finals. They didn't have Kevin Love for any game in the finals, right? They lost Kevin Love, I want to say, in the second round to a shoulder injury. So they played the conference finals without Love, made it to the finals, and then they lost Kyrie the first game, and then LeBron had to do it by himself with Dellavedova, and they still end up getting 2 games out of it, I think. This is David Blatt, and this is the coach you wanted to fire. He got you to the finals, and then you had the number 1 record in the East the next year before the All-Star break, and y'all fired him. The issue with David Blatt, we seen that was visibly tension between him and LeBron, kind of like how you seen it between LeBron and Darvin Ham. There was tension. You could see it, you could sense it, and sometimes it'll come out in the post games, right? Same thing with Darvin Ham. Same when they asked Anthony Davis, why did y'all lose this game? And he said, "Man, we don't even know what we're doing out there sometimes." That's a direct shot at the head coach, right? You can't say things like that. James Borrego is a coach that is kind of like that. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's not going to come in and let LeBron run it, right? That's my opinion. So I don't see how it's even possible that LeBron signs off on it. I just don't see it. LeBron wants to handpick the guy, which is funny because I thought he handpicked Ham. I thought he signed off on the Ham thing. All this is weird, man. You signing off on guys and all of a sudden you don't want them, man. But, it's very old. It's very weird. And no, I don't think Phil Jackson is a good candidate. He didn't even want to coach the Knicks, man. He said that after his hip surgery, he just couldn't travel with the team, right? And all that stuff. Even being the president of the Knicks, he wouldn't go to away games, right? So it'll never be Phil will probably never coach again. He'll never coach again. So it won't be Phil for sure. But back to JJ Redick. The fact that he's even a candidate is very odd. He has no experience. I don't even think he is that good of a leader. I don't think he can be a leader of men. People think he's an X's and O's genius. I don't. He's an analytic believer, right? He's going to make decisions based off analytics. That's going to get you in a lot of trouble, right? He's going to be a poor man's D'Antoni, right? So Doc Rivers has had his issues with JJ Redick because JJ Redick has been very critical of him, especially this past season, where he had some very harsh words to say about Doc Rivers. And Doc Rivers was on Stephen A. Smith's show, and he was asked about it, and he was asked about him as a coach as well. And this is what he said.
There, JJ Redick was on the record getting on you pretty adamantly about some of the things that you were saying once you ultimately ended up in Milwaukee and talked about passing the buck or whatever. Did you two ever talk about that? Did you ever resolve that with one another?
No, JJ's had a problem with me for a while, and that's fine. Players do. One thing when you coach, Stephen A., you can be called a player's coach or whatever you want to be called. But if you make decisions that the player doesn't agree with, in JJ's case, we didn't cite him back. With the Clippers, I stopped playing him as much because he wasn't very effective in the playoffs. And, that's all known. But I'm fine with that. Like, usually they all come back to you. They do. Because they know everything you tried to teach them or do for them was in good. JJ Redick's best numbers of his career was under one coach, and you're looking at him right here. I'm the one that grabbed him out of Milwaukee and decided to start him. From that point on, his career took off. All the movement plays, everything. First play of the game, every game. When we played with the Clippers, you would have coaches and teams come up to you and say, "You're not going to score on that first play with JJ." And I would always say, "Just watch us. We're going to figure it out." So overall, nothing but love for JJ. Obviously, there's things he doesn't like, and I have no issues with him.
How do you feel about the thought of him being a head coach in the NBA? Because that's what the rumors are saying, that ultimately he's going to be a head coaching candidate. They've mentioned him in Charlotte. They've mentioned him with the Los Angeles Lakers. That's to just mention two teams. How do you feel about that, knowing what you know about him as a basketball mind and now a basketball commentator?
Well, he has a great mind. He really does. And listen, that's how I got it. I went into commentating, got a head coaching job. So I personally, I really hope he gets the job, because then he'll understand some of the things that he has a problem with me and other coaches that you hear on this podcast. He'll realize not as easy as you think. And some of these decisions that you have to make are brutal. Me and Pat Riley, and it's in one of the books, we had a drag out fight, like an argument in Pat Riley's office.
Right.
Jeff Van Gundy and Dick Arter used to tell a story that they was standing at the door because they thought they were going to have to come in.
This is when you were a member of the New York Knicks. When you were a member of the New York Knicks. When Pat Riley was coaching the Knicks. Yes.
Yeah, we had a crazy argument. And then I decided I was going to coach 5 years later. And it took me about 2 years. I remember calling Pat Riley and said, "Coach, I'm sorry for that argument. I see now what you saw, but I didn't see it then." And I think a lot of players who get in this business find that out.
I agree with that. So let's talk about what he said at the beginning. He said that JJ Redick had an issue with him, but he also said that I don't know why he got such an issue. Like, yeah, I benched him in the playoffs because I wasn't getting production out of him. However, JJ Redick made the most money because of me. JJ Redick became a starter because of me when I brought him to the Clippers. And he said he drew up a lot of plays for JJ Redick. He got a lot of shots under him. It was just that he wasn't effective in the playoffs. And it is what it is, man. It happens, right? So he might have an issue with him. I remember Paul George saying he had an issue playing with Doc because Doc was only calling pin down plays for him. And he was like, "Man, I can do so much more." And that's when they brought in Ty Lue. They fired Doc and got Ty Lue in there. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you're not going to have the best rapport with your coach, man. I remember playing for a coach and I don't know if if sometimes he watched the show, right? But when I was in Virginia, I played on some teams for Coach Page, and he claimed I was his favorite point guard, but I can't tell, because whenever we had big men on the squad, me and him would get into it a lot because I like to score, I like to pass as well. But sometimes I feel like, man, if I can get that bucket, I'm going to go get that bucket. And I remember having drag out arguments about him because, sometimes there'll be a big man right there in the post. And I drive and go get the bucket. Or, you know what I'm saying? I take shots, man. So, I didn't always dump it down like he wanted me to. So that was just his coaching philosophy. He would rather you dump it down to the big man and get him the opportunity. But I feel like, and I'm not talking about like us in the half court. I'm talking about like me coming downhill with a head full of steam on a fast break. I feel like once I pick up that speed, I can get to the hole and get something, right? But it was a couple of times where I'm driving and the lane is open, but my big man will jump right in there and post up. I'm like, hell no, I'm not about to throw the ball. I already got a head full of steam and there's nobody in front of me. I'm taking it. But he wanted me to dump it down, right? That I don't have an issue with him personally. But me and him had a disagreement on what we should have done in that moment, right? And sometimes that happened. It looked like, JJ Redick didn't like the fact that he was benched in the playoffs. But Doc Rivers, from what he's seen as a coach, you're not effective. You're not a great defender. He was older, and all you can do is shoot. I needed something else at that time, especially if somebody's guarding you and giving you a lot of attention on defense and locking you up. I'm saying? It takes too much for me to actually get you a shot. Nah, I'm gonna go somewhere else, right? So JJ Redick can't be mad at that. Well, you can be mad at it, but at the same time, like, don't take it out on him. And the first opportunity you get on national TV to go at him, you go at him because you got a personal vendetta against him, right? And that's what it sounds like is going on between him and Doc. And Doc was like, look, man, if you really break it down, and his son said the same thing. He was like, man, you made a lot of money because my dad had faith in you. So JJ Redick made money. He got long-term contracts with the Clippers. He got a starting role. He didn't start nowhere else where he was at. He didn't start in New Orleans. He didn't start in Orlando when it was in the finals. Michael Petrie was the starter, right? He came off the bench. So even in his youth, in his prime, JJ Redick didn't start. But Doc Rivers seen something in you and brought you into the Clippers as a starter. It's very weird that you have an issue with that dude, right? So then toward the end, he said, look, man, I'm all for him getting the opportunity as a coach. That's how I got my opportunity. I went away as a player. I started commentating, and then I got an opportunity in Orlando, I think, and he took it. And he was like, it looked like JJ Redick's getting an opportunity straight from the commentator's bench, right? He said, hey, look, I ain't got nothing against it. That's how I got my start, right? So he gave him a nod for that. He said he was a great mind as well. It's kind of hard to play 10 plus years and not be a great mind, like, unless you just illiterate or dumb or something like that. But if you do something as a profession, I expect for you to have a great mind, right? Does that translate to coaching? Well, that's yet to be seen, right? But you can have a great mind. He didn't say he was a great candidate for a coach. He just said, yeah, he got a great mind. He's a smart guy. Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's got a great mind, right? So he said he got a great mind. He said, hey, it's good. It's more power to him of getting the opportunity. But I think some of the things he got issues with me about, he's going to realize once he becomes a coach, he's probably going to come back and call me and say, I get it now. And he said a lot of that happens a lot of time. He said it happened to him with his knockdown, drag out fights he used to have with Pat Riley. Once he started coaching, I get it now, right? I get it, right? And that happens a lot. And JJ Redick might get this head coaching job. He might not, but if he gets it, I think it's going to be really fast when he started to realize, yeah, I might have been a little too hard on Doc Rivers, and he going to come with that apology, man. So